You got me started on that whole tangent, so let's go back to the basics.
It had to be clarified somewhere, right. So may as well be in the first class.
Biomechanics. How to move your body, how to do things effectively. Very important. All right, so we'll start with some stances. And like I said, none of these are static. You don't have to pick a guard and then attack from it. You should be moving through guards with a little bit of fluidity. You don't want to let your opponent know where the attack is coming from. That way they can't plan, they can't say, oh, well, he's in the high guard. I know where his attack's coming from, right? That's just poor planning. So, your boxer. In, out. And you cut, depending on that. So, you've got levels of guards. There's the low guards, like this one. This one right here is Albert, or I can't remember what it is in Japanese. I don't think they do it. I don't know. It can be, it's pretty much just out in front of you. There are no killing strokes that can come from here besides a thrust. Albert means the fool. If somebody walks in, if you just come in on me, just, you know, thinking my guard is down, I'll just let you run into my tip. It's fine. So who's the fool, me or you? A lot of times you'll see it in the ground. It doesn't matter. If you just have it covering that front leg or off to the side like this, that's the iron gate. This is probably the most defensive thing you can do, because from here you can raise it up to cover your mid and high. Just by doing that, that's why they call it the iron gate. It doesn't give away very much. You just raise it up, bam, covers. And that passes through other guards, which would just complicate things if I brought them up. Because pretty much there's no spot that you can stop that doesn't have a name, unless it's like this. You can't attack from here. But if you just take a random spot like this, this has a name. There's the fence, the barrier guard, Schrankhut.
Now, what are these words you're using? Are they German?
These are German. Okay. Those are just the ones that I'm most familiar with.
Right.
So, it doesn't matter where you stop, as long as it's not like between your legs doing something weird. There's a name for that guard, and it doesn't matter whether it's official or not. You can attack from it. Alright, so, low guards. The opposite port, the iron gate, the fool, and the last one is the tail. It's the one where the tip is pointing, trailing behind you. And of course, all of these can be done on both sides.
Can you switch hands, or?
I'm not changing hands, I'm just rotating.
Does it depend on whether or not you're comfortable with one side versus another, or do you have to learn
the attack you just made?
Okay.
So if I cut from the high guard down to my diagonal, I end in that tail guard. If I fully follow through with it. If I go all the way through, full body attack, I'll end here. If I don't, if I do that same cut, kind of a little less, I'll end here in the Albert. Or if I cut it straight down, Albert. So it very much depends on the attack that preceded it. Because the guards aren't spots where you guard from, they're endpoints from attacks. You should be attacking from a ward, which is something I'll get into later, which was something Charles talked about in the
last episode of the Labyrinth.
What day was that? That was
Wednesday and he actually got the date right that time. The 18th.
Wednesday the 18th. Go listen to Labyrinth, and
of April.
You'll hear a lot about the ward, and I'll get into that in a little bit. All right. Now from here, if you just raise that tip up, you get into your middle guards, right? And again, both sides. I'm not changing hands, I'm just changing. like that. Now, in the Japanese systems, you'll see the middle guard thrust out in front, picking the middle, bisecting the person. The Germans simplify this by choosing a side. You'll either see it on the right side or the left side. If you choose the middle, you can be attacked from either side, and you gotta choose. But if you choose one side, it's a pretty poor fencer who's gonna attack your defended side. So you really only have to worry about that open side, the lower or upper quarters. So once you've chosen a side, you can guard it. You can also have that raised kind of middle guard. Just like that, right? Off to the back. That's about it for the middles. And any variation of this is fine. Like if you're here in the middle guard, well, let's say you want to be in the middle guard. Somebody's got a long reach. You stick it out there, it's still that middle guard. Stick it off to the side like this. It's still that same middle guard, it's just extended a little further. So don't think just because you're in some variant of it that you're not in that guard. You can very much suit these things to your own fencing style. All right, from here we raise it up. Take that tip, raise it up above the shoulder. This is a kind of a middle guard, but it's going to raise up a little bit higher. This is the start of what's called Vomtog. It's from the top. This is your very much samurai guard, because this is a variation of this, just over the shoulder, excuse me, which is a variation of this, up over the head. Right? It could be on either side, it could be above, or it could be kind of over the shoulder a little bit. Just depending on what's comfortable. You got to be careful when you're transitioning with this guard, because if you take it up over your head, you're actually blocking your vision for a second with your arm. That could be an opportunity for your opponent to attack you. Alright? So you're here in the upper guard. If you take that tip, and instead of having it withdrawn from your opponent, you engage it. Tip toward the opponent. And this can be done on either side. This is the ox. This is another one of those, you can see it in Japan, you can see it in the east and west. It's just threatening your opponent with a tip. What are you going to do? You don't want to run on this, do you? Probably not. I wouldn't.
So why can't that just be called the full two?
Yeah. Well, you can actually do a few killing strikes from this one.
Ah, it's okay.
The full, you can cut straight up, but that upward cut, it doesn't do a whole lot. You're not going to bisect somebody with this. There's too much meat, there's too much bone, you're going to end up disarming yourself if you do that. Because these thumbs can't hold it as well as if you get your whole wrist behind it, you're pushing through something. So chances are those thumbs are going to pop up, you're going to disarm yourself, and you'll be without a sword and you'll have to grab them. So, from the ox, that tip engaged high guard. If you take the flat of your blade, and you raise it up like this, that's covering your head from downward strokes. This is called the hanging guard. What you're creating is a window. And you're looking through this window. You got your blade, it's held off to an angle. You got a window. This is called the speaking window. That's Sprechfenster in German. A lot of times you can change that to threaten each one of their quarters. And this is a guard that is bordering on that ward attack. The ward is a guard that threatens. So if I take this guard, like if, need you again, just attack high, just any high. I've stopped his blow, right?
Right.
Then I'm set up for that killing strike, that thrust. So I'm killing and blocking at the same time. And in one fluid action, cut, it would look like that. And it would obviously be on target because you'd want to kill them. So while I'm blocking, I'm thrusting at the same time. That's a ward. Defense and offense at the same time.
Couldn't you step away from that though?
Like if you're coming in. Yep. That's why we practice the art. Because obviously there's a counter to everything. There's no, this is going to kill him every single time. Obviously you can do something to save your life each time, and it's just whoever
reflex and
whose reflexes are better, who has the better
Spiritual pressure.
spiritual pressure. Nice. Who has the more fighter spirit?
the blah blah blah.
Who
We
has
need
the
a
will of the
lightning strike.
warrior?
Oh, we need his lightning strike for this.
Who's the more badass?
I have a feeling that Charles is going to make it into a lot of our meetings.
Well, we sit and talk a lot, me and Charles. So, that's really the first warding guard that I've shown you guys, is that block with the tip engaged. It can be done as a two-step thing. It could be block, thrust, or it could just be thrust. If you want it to be more efficient, it's one action. It's just thrust from there. That's the more efficient action. Because if you're just defending, that puts you a step behind. Your goal should be to attack and defend at the same time. Like if I was going to, if he had a high guard, I would want to thrust from something that's going to cover that downward strike. So my attack becomes my defense. It's not that I'm just like ignoring everything he does. I'm attacking in a way that's covering me.